Did you miss us? I know it's been 1 week, but that's still a long time. We're here for season 3. I'm Rachel.
I'm Hannah.
And this is the You Talking to Me podcast. Today, we are reviewing, for Sports Month, the Peanut Butter Falcon. Whoop, whoop. And Hannah is coming at us fast with the recap.
Here I go.
Or at moderate speed as well, actually, is acceptable.
Snail speed. Here we go. The Peanut Butter Falcon is a movie that follows a man named Zach. Zach is in a retirement home because he has Down syndrome. Zach really wants to meet saltwater redneck and learn to wrestle. Cal, a man who Zach rooms with, helps him escape.
It's Carl.
Zach meets a man. Is it Carl?
Yes.
It's Carl.
Yeah, and I did correct you, but I wonder if I glitched out on my end.
If we remember from Paranorman.
And everything.
Hannah and names. Don't go. Should I just redo this recap?
Yeah, let's try.
Okay. Here I go. The Peanut Butter Falcon is a movie that follows a man named Zach. Zach is in a retirement home because he has Down syndrome. Zach really wants to meet saltwater redneck and learn to wrestle. Carl, a man who Zach rooms with, helps him escape. Zach meets a man named Tyler, and they start going on a journey together. One day on the journey, Eleanor, who is a helper for Zach, shows up. The three of them find the man Zach is looking for, and the man teaches Zach to wrestle. The very next day, Zach gets to compete in a match, which is his dream. An unexpected twist ends the match. What will happen with the three of them, and will they be able to finish their journey to Florida?
All right. I love the cliffhanger. Love the leaving people in suspense, waiting to know what happens when we're literally about to spoil it for them right now, basically. But if you haven't watched it, go watch it real quick and come back, okay? So that we don't spoil it for you. Spoiler, they make it to Florida.
At the very end. It's like one of those Hallmark kisses, at the very last second, the kiss happens. Well, they make it to Florida at the last second.
Yeah, this I would say is completely opposite of a Hallmark movie, but the sentiment is there of the one thing you're waiting for.
What was I going to say? Hello, my brain just left the room. Not a clue. Not a clue. Now, this is literally jumping in, and y'all are gonna be like, excuse me, what are you talking about? Because it's in the middle of the movie. But one thing I wanted to make sure I talk about is, okay, if you have been listening and or watching to our podcast, you know that when we talked about 13 Reasons Why, there's a scene in the series that is a big trigger warning. And I talked about how this scene that happens with Hannah didn't really trigger me. I won't say affect me, but I wasn't super affected by the moment because I felt like I had thoughts like she had, if that makes sense. I'm trying to be vague just so we don't have to go into that again. But then in this movie, there's a scene where there's this whole binge drinking scene happening, and that did trigger me, which I was surprised by. I was just thinking of that this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I didn't even think of that.
Oh, no. I'm fine. It was just that was really overwhelming for me. And I was like, oh yeah, there's previews of my past. But I just wasn't expecting that in the movie. And I don't know how long the scene lasts, but Zach and Tyler are on an island or beach or something, and they're just pounding down a big jug of moonshine or whatever this man from a random store made into alcohol.
Yeah, that was a lot. Maybe I just haven't been in the right parts or maybe the wrong parts of the South yet, because this takes place in North Carolina, I think. all the way down to Florida is kind of like the path that they're on. But I have never like walked into a store and someone was like, you know what you need? Some homemade alcohol in quotations, whatever that is. It's strong and it looked toxic. But yeah, they use it to help Zach because he like twisted his ankle to like prevent him from feeling it, and like it worked, but he also couldn't feel anything else. So it was a little intense.
Now, I will say that alcohol will do that. It will numb out pain. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen a drunk person fall down and they're like fine? They're like toddlers when they're drunk. I swear you can become rubber. I one time was running down the hallway in an apartment complex and I face planted, and like I had a backpack full of bottles of beers on my back and they exploded everywhere. And I had a bruise on my leg that actually lasted for like 11 months. It was so bad, but I was like fine. Like I was like, I'm not hurt. But it was this huge bruise on my thigh. And yeah, but it didn't hurt.
Yeah, so I mean it was an accurate part of the film, but yeah, I can see how that was, it was a little intense, I would say. But so this film essentially, it starts off and it catches you by surprise immediately, okay? Because this movie does not waste any time, and I love that, because how many films have either we seen here or just seen in general where it takes like 20 minutes to like get everything out? I remember just recently watching a TV show on Netflix that they don't reveal any information until the episode that you need it, which I'm like, come on, callbacks are a thing here. Like, you're allowed to show us something in episode 1 and not show it again until episode 9. Like, that's allowed. I'll allow it. But I was like, this is really slow moving. But in Peanut Butter Falcon, they catch you by surprise. So it shows Zach getting his food, or whatever, and then he looks just, oh, I'm so pleasant, I'm so nice, like I'm your stereotypical view of anyone with Down syndrome. Then he sits down and passes this note over to this old woman, and she looks at it, and it's like a pudding cup and then a drawing of Zach like strong and like an exit sign, and she knew exactly what to do. All of a sudden he gives the old lady, which I don't remember her name. Do you remember her name? No. Why would you know her name? You don't know anyone's name. But he passes her the pudding, and then Eleanor, who is the woman who like takes the most care of Zach, it's like, oh, how sweet of you to share your pudding with him. And he's like, oh yeah, uh-huh. And then the second she leaves, he's just stone-faced. And then was like, now. And Eleanor starts fake coughing and dying, and he makes a sprint for the exit and has to get like body slammed to the ground. Like, it's so funny because that happens within 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe max, and we know exactly like his goal. We don't know why he wants to escape yet, but we know he wants to get out. We know that he's not the, oh, I'm so sweet and follow the rules type of person, and we know that Eleanor cares way more about this person than anyone else. Okay, and then it cuts over to Tyler, who is, okay, I need to look something up actually real quick.
While Rachel's looking that up, let me just tell you, I am Zach. Zach is me. I was an escape artist from school. That was me. I would run away. There was, yeah, one time where I remember running away from school and I was hiding under a tree in a field like a block away because I was just like, not today. I am not going to be at school. And it's not for the reason probably y'all think, or like, oh, why didn't Hannah want to be in school? Like, school's boring. No, I was scared of the people at school. I don't mean like there was terrible humans at school. I just have always had this thing with germs, and I was scared that there was people that were sick and they were going to make me sick. And it was, I believe it was the year that I had a kid in my class who threw up literally every single day. And that was the worst. It was the worst.
Ew.
So I ran.
Okay, so the real quick thing that I want to bring up is the actor who plays Tyler is someone that I don't vibe with. Okay, he is accused of lots of terrible things. Of course, I don't know how these came out or anything. I don't know, but I'm a person. I believe the woman here. You could probably guess some of the things then that he was accused of me saying I believe the woman. So there's a lot of abuse type of things, a lot of assault type of things. And I don't vibe with him. I'm not saying his name during this whole podcast. So he's going to be Tyler. Tyler, the character's fine. And that's all I've got to say real quick. Just to get that disclaimer out here. But so Tyler, he is, the first time we see him, he's just out fishing. He's collecting some crab pots or whatever. And we're just like, oh, cool, fisherman, whatever. Then he sees a cop and he's like, I gotta get out of here. I cannot be over here. I can't get caught doing obviously something illegal. And we find out he's like stealing people's crabs out of their like cages and stuff, which I read a book a while ago called The Salt House by Lisa Duffy. And let me just say, they do not over-exaggerate the anger that these men that find out that he is stealing from them have. People get murdered for less in the crab, lobster, shrimp world, okay? Because this is all that they have, and they don't have any control over how many crabs or lobsters, whatever, come in their pots and stuff. This is an intense world to be involved in. So the fact that just him stealing from the pots were enough for them to want to kill him is not an over exaggeration. And on top of that, he burned down literally all of their supplies. And I was like, you are asking to be murdered. They should murder you. You are not doing good things. And so I was like, oh crap, just knowing he was stealing. And then he just kept adding on to it. And I was like, for Rick, dude, you're not in for a good time. And so he basically makes a run for Florida is like his thing. And we know all of these things about the two main characters right away, like first 6 minutes, just for everything. It's awesome. What did you think about these openings and introductions to these characters?
They definitely happen quick. And as we all know, I am not one that likes a slow moving movie or show. So I appreciated that it jumped in with 2 feet immediately because I don't like slow pace. There was a few parts throughout the movie that I felt moved a little bit slowly. I can't think of them off the top of my head in this moment, but overall, I didn't feel like it was too long, which in fact, it's not that long of a movie. It's an hour and 36 minutes. So it's not that long. I would say it's worth the watch. I liked it. What was I gonna say about Tyler too? Was right away, did you notice that when he's on the boat, what his hat says?
I wrote it down. He has an Outer Banks hat on. I was like, yes, call back. I mean, it looks just like the Outer Banks type of area. It looks like Savannah. I mean, the whole coastline there, like all the little marsh towns and like whatever, they look like that. So I did notice that. I thought that was a little Easter egg for us, even though they didn't know that we were going to be doing this.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. But maybe that's where they are, is Outer Banks. Who knows? Carl's the one who helps Zach actually escape. And what happens is they tie a bed sheet around okay, so after Zach tries to escape, they put bars on the window because they're like, well, he's a flight risk. Like, we're not going to let him escape. So Carl ties a bed sheet or pillowcases, maybe, because they're not that big, around the bars. And he uses his cane and he like twists it to bend the bars. And he says he was an engineer before he was in the retirement home, which is so cute. And then he says something which I thought is so cute. He says, friends are the family you choose. I love that.
Yeah, because Zach doesn't have any family that he can turn to. I don't know if any of them are dead. I don't know if they're just not equipped to take care of him, whatever like that means. Like maybe when he was younger, he needed that more, but he is like a 22-year-old adult and is a lot more independent than anyone's giving him credit for, except for Carl and Tyler, we find out. And so he just has friends right now, and that's all he has for his family. And he, it's so cute. So he has this recurring thing where he invites people or uninvites people to his birthday party. And I actually knew a girl in my high school who had Down syndrome who would do that actually, which I don't know if that's a thing or just happens to be the two just happen to like have the same thing. I don't know, or they would ask people to go to their birthday party. I don't know. But I thought that was just really funny. I was like, oh, connection there. And so he invited Carl to his birthday party and Carl knew what that meant. Like he like knows that's like basically saying I love you, right? Like for him. And so he was very sweet. He never like treated Zach like he was anyone special with special needs or anything. Like, and look, there are some people with certain either neurodiversities or different like disabilities and stuff like that who do need certain special treatment and care because some of them can't take care of themselves. But Zach was not one of those people. Like he did not need any special treatment really at all. Like maybe he needed medication, I don't know, but he like didn't require any special assistance. And Carl was one of those people who like didn't. He was like swear at him for playing the same tape over and over again. And then which made it look like he didn't like rooming with Zach. And then all of a sudden the next scene we see him helping him like escape, but like in a sweet way, not being like, oh thank God he's leaving, right? And so I thought that was really sweet of him. Like they're just a good friendship. And it made me, that line literally almost made me cry when he said that.
Oh, it's just so sweet. And then so when he gets out, well, then first of all, he's slipping through these bars. Carl gives him soap and he strips down to his whitey tighties and slips his body through the bars. And then he ends up going and hiding in a boat. And the boat turns out to be Tyler's. And Tyler's trying to get away from the people who he's stolen and burned things down. And then I thought it was so funny though, after he's been like flying on this boat, after a while, you just hear from under, oh, because Zach is hiding under this like canvas tarp or something at the back of the boat. And then all of a sudden you hear like he's just barfing because he obviously got a little bit seasick from the way Tyler's been driving, and that's how Tyler finds Zach. It's so funny.
It was literally the grossest thing ever because it looked like real puke, I swear. Like, and it was like all over his face, and Tyler was touching it, and it was so gross. I was not a fan at all of that scene. I just wrote the vomit. Ew. That's what I wrote down.
As soon as I heard that, like I kind of picked up what was about to happen, so I stopped watching. I was just listening because I was like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. So I'm glad now that I did not look at that moment because I would not be a fan.
Bad. So bad. Literally the worst. I mean, Tyler's like not into helping Zach at all at the beginning because I mean, he's trying to escape. He does not need another person with him. And he like leaves him at this place that has like a high dive next to it, I guess. It's just like a part of the lake or river or whatever. And he like goes off, but then he gets like he hitchhikes and he gets this ride from this guy who's talking about some fire down at the dock and how they closed off Highway 58 or something or whatever. And Tyler's like, oh shoot, I forgot something. Gotta leave. And I was like, that's a little suspicious, but whatever, bro. And so he goes back to get Zach and finds these kids bullying him. And we have found out at this point that Zach can't swim. And he sees Zach up on the high dive and people are calling him the R word and like bullying him, trying to get him to jump and stuff. And Tyler, we're going to be doing this the whole time, aren't we? And Tyler's like, he can't swim. And he's trying to climb up there real fast to like go save him. And eventually he jumps and Tyler has to save him and whatever. And he eventually does bring him along with him basically, but he makes these rules. And rule number 1 is don't slow him down. And like rule number 2 is like carry your own weight or whatever. There's like just these different rules that he has. And he like, Zach just like doesn't go. And he's like, what's rule number 1? And he's like trying to pull him along and stuff like that. And then he's like come on, Zach, what's rule number one? And Zach goes, party. He's like, no, it's not party. It is not party. But then eventually, like, the callbacks are so cute because you can see them like bonding as they go. And later, it was, I think during the drinking scene, actually, is like, what's rule number one? And he goes, party. He's like, hell yeah, it's party. And it's like great. And they come up with like a secret handshake and all this stuff. And it's just, it's very fun how slowly like Tyler goes from being like, I hate having to carry around with me to this guy's super cool. I'll get him to Aiden, North Carolina for the wrestling thing. And then I'm going to Florida, like whatever, it's on the way. So I don't care. And then to like, all right, like this is my best friend, you know. I just think it's because he also doesn't have family because his brother died, and that we have like a little hint as to like Tyler was probably the reason his brother died, because we get a little bit of him like driving and like swerving into the other lane, and then we don't see anything else, but we know that the brother's dead. And it's like, why would we get that flashback if that wasn't the reason, right? So I think he feels a lot of guilt for that. And then so this is like his only family that he has, and that the friends are the family that you choose or whatever is the theme of the whole movie, honestly, because it is the big thing that is going, it's the glue that's holding this whole thing together.
Yeah, exactly. I like that a lot. And I love the bond that happens between them. And then now I'm gonna forget who's who. Tyler starts teaching Zach some basic skills for surviving or whatever, or what he thinks. I mean, he tries to help him with like, oh, get stronger for wrestling and stuff like that. But the uh he's teaching Zach how to shoot a shotgun. And Zach like blasts back. Like that's the only moment that's really unrealistic because Zach literally flies backwards, but it was funny. Okay. I laughed. I was like, yep, I'm here for that. But that comes into play later because Zach and Tyler and Eleanor at that point are, I don't know where they're at, some random shack. Is that a
Yeah, just like some shed or something that they found.
and those guys show up who Tyler stole from and burned their stuff. And they're trying to, well, harm Tyler. They're giving him a choice of if he gets shot in the right hand or left hand. And Zach comes out with the shotgun and they're like, yeah, but can you aim? And he's like, there's buckshot in here. And so then they actually leave because Zach was coming to save Tyler, which was sweet.
Yeah, so I really liked a lot. Every moment I think was either special or had a callback or whatever. Like everything meant something and was leading to another point of the movie, which was really great. And that's what I loved about it. It is such a simple story structure. Like if anyone out there knows the Save the Cat, like 15 beats of a movie, this follows it so well. And like we've got the theme stated in the first 10 minutes. We've got, great opening image. We've got, the midpoint is really great. So a lot of the times in really dramatic movies, the midpoint is a false positive, or in a comedy, it's a false negative, and it like flips around at the end. But in this one, the midpoint was when he creates the Falcon costume, the Peanut Butter Falcon costume. It's like this great moment of like being, really confident. He can finally, because he was really discouraged. He couldn't lift this log or whatever. And Tyler's trying to distract him at first and be like, oh, you need a name, you need a wrestling name, who's your favorite wrestler? Oh, it's Saltwater Redneck. Well, that's not his real name, so we need to come up with a name for you. And they come up with the Peanut Butter Falcon. He creates a costume for him. He gets this confidence, can shove the log over all this stuff, and it's just like this high. And then immediately after, Eleanor finds them, and they all think that the adventure is going to end right there. Like, oh, she's going to force them to go back to the retirement home, all this stuff, right? And that's just such a great moment. That's immediately followed by the opposite emotion. So that's what I really love about this film is that it can follow those 15 steps, but it doesn't feel like a movie I've seen before. It doesn't feel like every other movie that also follows these 15 steps. Did you feel like this was like an original film to an extent?
Yeah, I did. And I guess so we should talk about Eleanor a little bit, maybe. So we find out that she is a volunteer actually at this retirement home, and she says, like, she's talking to Tyler about how she's like, you don't know who I am, like, you don't know my life, like, I volunteer. I can't remember how long she said she's been doing it, but she said that, a lot of times she's the last person that these people see. She helps them when they're sick, she wipes their butt, she gives them pills, she's doing all these things for these people, and she really does care about Zach. But I think that she begins to see, as do the audience members, that she is treating him like this child, and he's not. He is this 22-year-old man who is capable. But a lot of times I'll say that even if we believe that we're not um biased, or like have certain ideas about certain people, we try not to be like assume things about people, I would say. And she's doing her best to help him, but she's also kind of hurting him because she's not letting him live to his full potential, because she's treating him like he's not capable of doing things that he's capable of doing, which I see people do with all sorts of, even like children. I was with someone yesterday who was I was at a park with the little girl I nanny, and someone asked her a question, and before she could answer, like, she was taking a second, they answered for her. And I was like, no, like, that's how you hinder a child's confidence, and or a person's confidence and a person's abilities, by doing the things for them. And that's what I felt like Eleanor is doing to Zach, is that she's just like doing those things for him.
Yeah, and we see that especially to be true when they're on this raft that they build. So Tyler and Zach end up almost being shot by this blind guy who ends up super religious and baptizing them. And because he can tell they're, lost souls and like weary travelers, basically, he lets them use anything in his junkyard except for the boat. And I think it's like maybe to teach them a lesson. I don't know. It's maybe you have to work for what you get, and there's things like that, right? And so I did think it was funny that when Zach was like, what's a baptism, Tyler's like, it's kind of like swimming. So that was funny to me. But so they build this raft out of all these planks of wood, which I think was pretty convenient that he had all these really good planks of wood and not a bunch of rotted crap. But that's neither here nor there. We needed it for the film, and I'm willing to look past a couple of things because this film I thought was so good. Okay. But they're on this raft now, and Eleanor, Tyler, and Zach are all talking, and Eleanor's like, Zach, are you hungry? Like, I have some granola. Like, and he's like, no, I'm not hungry. And she's like, are you sure? Like, maybe you should eat a little something. I have granola bars and apple. And Tyler's like, he said he's not hungry. Like, what are you doing? And then like she keeps kind of like being like, oh, I have M&Ms. Do you like M&Ms? Like, oh, I know you haven't been eating, as good, whatever. And then Tyler all of a sudden is like, you know what, Zach? Just because we're on a raft doesn't mean we got to stop our training, okay? Now let's do some breathing exercises. And then was like, I'm going to time you. Put your head underwater. I'll see how long you last, okay? And then he uses that time. I thought this was brilliant, honestly. I would have never thought of a moment like this. I thought it was brilliant. So the second Zach goes underwater, Tyler's like calling Eleanor out, like, stop calling him the R word, basically, right? And of course they're saying it this whole time. It's a movie. These people are just saying what they say. And she's like, I have never called him that word, right? And stuff. He's like, well, you're basically doing it by, treating him like a baby or a child, whatever. He's 22-year-old man. Like he knows when he's hungry, he knows what he wants, like all this stuff. And it's like kind of putting her in her place, which she does not want to hear, obviously. Like, she has been the one that is taking care of, you know, him and these other people for so long. And, you know, she's very sweet. She's coming from a great place, but coming from a great place doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. And you just have to be willing to learn and unlearn things that you thought were right. She's not a trained professional in this. I mean, like, what is she supposed to do, right? And she hasn't been given the right resources to know what to do. And I think, like I said, everything she does is coming from a really good place. And she does care so much about him. She loves this guy and treats him like he is her brother. But I just think that this was a whole new perspective she got, because Tyler's been out here living life with him with no boundaries, no restrictions, no whatever. I mean, he's got a couple of rules, but life has rules, right? You know, and so I thought that was really interesting, is like coming from this basically stranger telling her how to do her job. And kind of after that point, like, because he has to go back underwater because he only can last like 35-40 seconds, right? But he goes back under, then he comes back up the second time with a freaking fish. And they're like, Zach, did you catch that with your hands? Oh my God. Like, it was so funny. It was a great moment. And I think that was part of the beginning of her really seeing, oh crap, like he really can handle himself. He got that with his hands. Like, what the F? Like, he can do things, you know, which I liked that everyone had this little journey, right? Including Eleanor. And this whole time while the two of the guys are going to Florida / Aiden, she's like following the same map trying to find him. And then also the two bad guys that are trying to kill Tyler are also coming down the same path. So it's just like, holy crap, you know, all these people, how long will it take for them to outrun them, right? And it's pretty crazy. But I love that moment on the raft of everyone kind of getting on the same page, kind of.
Yeah, I thought that was really great. And the whole fish thing was so funny. And then they cooked the fish and then they put peanut butter on top, which I thought was really unique. And the reason that Zach wants to be called the Peanut Butter Falcon is, well, he says Falcon, like he wants to be the Falcon. And then one of the only things they have to eat, Tyler and Zach have to eat on this journey, is peanut butter. And this is after they've been drinking. So Zach is drunk and he starts smearing peanut butter on his face as part of his Falcon costume. So then he comes up with Peanut Butter Falcon, which I thought was creative and funny. How did you feel about Eleanor being played by Dakota Johnson?
Okay. So for people who don't know, Dakota Johnson was in all the 50 Shades movies as the woman in it. Okay. I really liked her in this role a lot. I thought she killed it. She definitely pulled herself out of that box of I'm only in sexy movies or whatever, or I'm a sex object, you know, like, which of course she was never trying to do by being in those 50 Shades movies, but you know, people. So I thought this was really smart for her agent, for her manager, for her, whoever decided like this is what you're auditioning for and you're going to do. I thought it was brilliant. She was perfect for it and killed it. And she was really fun. Like, they meet up at the place where they got the booze. Tyler and Eleanor did, without her knowing that that's who she met. But he knew because she had a picture of Zach and he was like, why are you looking for him? Well, what do you do? He's a criminal? Like, I don't know. And she like, but then he was like hitting on her a lot because she's really pretty. And she was just standing up for herself. I was like, yes, boss ass woman, not taking crap from these guys, you know. And I think like there's a lot of ways to handle being hit on. And like Tyler was not doing it very respectfully, but the old man, I mean, like, it was a little weird, but he was trying to be polite, at least, where Tyler was not trying to be polite. But I still would have, if an old man said, excuse me, miss, don't, you know, mind me for staring, you're the most beautiful woman I've seen in a while, I would have been like, okay, I'm leaving. But she obviously slid to ask if like they had seen Zach, so I mean, like, that was her primary goal. But she was just like, when Tyler asked if she has a phone number, she's like, yeah, I got a phone number. And he's like, are you gonna give it to me? And she's like, all right, I'll be going. Basically, it was so funny. And that also is the turning point for Zach and Tyler, because he's like, oh, you're a vigilante like me. I was hoping there was something that would bond us. We're two criminals on the run. And Zach's like, yeah. Like they're just having a freaking good time together. Just, oh man. Although the amount of bugs that they probably encountered, I would have been out day one. Absolutely not.
My body would just be completely swollen from the mosquito bites. I would have gotten, it would have been bad.
Sunburns?
Bad.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, sunburns. And they probably came across like 80,000 snakes, which I wouldn't have been cool with either.
I don't mind snakes as much, but a single spider, a single cockroach, I'm drowning myself in the ocean. That's fine.
Rachel be dead.
I would have slowed him down and he would have been like, you know what? Bye. You deserve to be taken by the elements of the world. You are slowing me down.
And then so they make their way to find Saltwater Redneck. Redneck, is that the right name? Saltwater Redneck, yeah. Who's this man who used to teach wrestling, like he had a wrestling school, and he said that it closed down 10 years ago and he's not that man anymore. And Tyler's trying to be like, yo, like this man, sorry, has come all this way to see you, like you're his hero, can you please just like say hi to him? And he does wave at him, and then he kind of was just like, no, like I don't do that anymore. And so Tyler, Zach, and Eleanor are walking away defeated, and then he zips out in this little car. He has his wrestling makeup on, and he comes out, and Zach was like, I told you he's real. I told you. And then Saltwater Redneck asked Zach if he wants a ride in this little sports muscle car thing. And he's like, yeah, can my family come with? And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And so then Saltwater Redneck is teaching Zach to wrestle. And there's this weird man that's watching who actually ends up being the man that Zach wrestles in the match. And his name is like Samuel or something like that. Who knows? I'm not good with
Rachel
names.
knows. It's Samson.
Samson. I knew there was an S. And that man's an asshole, okay? Big ol' asshole. I don't like him.
I mean, but like, here's the thing too, right? Like, he is an asshole because he's literally like, it looks like so this wrestling match is not what you see on TV. Like, people actually get hurt and actually get hit and stuff like that, instead of like, it's all a show. Anyone who knows wrestling knows it's a show and it's for fun and there's stories and it's a good time. Okay. I don't watch it, but it doesn't mean it's not a good time. And this wrestling match is like no rules basically. And first things first, in this videotape that Kat keeps watching, it's of Saltwater Redneck and the wrestling school, and they're like, we'll teach you everything, we'll teach you all these new moves. And there's this one called the atomic throw, where you basically lift a man up straight up and like chuck him out of the ring, right? And Zach really wants to learn that move, but Saltwater Redneck, you know, lets him in on the spiel of like, it's not real, we just did it for the camera and we did it for the show. So there's that. But at the actual wrestling match, Zach has this oh my gosh, I must have said Saltwater Redneck, has this Peanut Butter Falcon costume that is made out of like cardboard and duct tape and stuff that Tyler makes right before the show. And he goes out to wrestle Samson. Samson's like 10 feet tall, I swear. I mean, it's literally like a David and Goliath moment, you know? Samson's just like killing him out there until he gets, so he's been told like, talk trash to him. And so finally he goes, you're not invited to my birthday party, and like lifts him up and does the atomic throw, which was like really insane. But at the same time, so this is another brilliant moment of this movie. Okay. I love this movie. The writing is absolutely fantastic. I don't even know who wrote it. I'm so sorry, but we'll look that up in a minute. Okay. So right at the highlight of Zach's life, it is literally the best moment of his whole entire existence, is the same moment that is like the worst for Tyler. Okay. Because at this same moment, literally second to second, The two guys who have been hunting them down this whole time get notice that Tyler's at this wrestling thing because some other guy is there who knows. And they get there, he has a tire iron and just whips Tyler in the face, in the head, like beats him probably within an inch of his life. And we cut immediately to the hospital. It doesn't look good. It looks really upsetting. They definitely make it look like Tyler's dead. Okay, but then we get cut to the next scene and it's just Eleanor and Zach driving. Zach's asleep in the passenger seat and Eleanor wakes them up because they made it to Florida. And like the music, the camera, the filter on the screen, like everything makes it look like, oh, we're doing this for Tyler because he could never do it. Oh. And then Zach's like, Tyler, we made it! And he's in the back seat, like, looks dead. Like, he's got wraps and bruises and blood and cuts and everything, but he made it to Florida. He's there alive and good, and they're a little family, and it was really sweet.
His face when he like pops up from the backseat was
So
too
good.
good. You
So
have
good.
to, if you only watch one part of the movie, watch that. And when Zach gets blown to bits from the shotgun.
Yeah, if you're looking for the comedy in it. Actually,
Yeah.
I laughed and smiled and cried like so many times in this movie. I feel like it's
I
really
can't say I
worth.
cried. I
It's
laughed
really,
though, and that's actually hard for me. Like I'm not a person who's actually usually like I might be like, you know, if something's like kind of funny, but there was like multiple times where I was like, look at that, let's watch that again. That's funny.
yeah, it was like heartwarming type stuff, but they do it in such a way that isn't like inspiration porn, right? With like people with disabilities or anything. Which, like we said, like Zion from 2 seasons, like definitely felt like that. This, I think, I mean, there's probably always something that they could do better, right? But they did such a good job with this by showing the audience. We were like Eleanor, I feel like, in this movie. And we were taught along the way, like, oh yeah, we shouldn't just judge people by what we think we know about them, you know? So
Exactly. Okay, so the screenplay was co-writer directors Tyler Nilson and Michael Schwartz. And apparently, now this could be wrong because it is from the Washington Post, but apparently it's based off of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
interesting. I've never read that. I'm just gonna nod like, oh yeah, totally see it, but I've never read it. That
You've
can make
never read
sense though.
Huckleberry Finn?
Sure. No.
Huh.
Public
No, we
school
had to for school.
education people, never consistent.
Yeah, true. Someone the other day asked me something about a war or geography. I know those are not the same at all, but
But they take up the same part of my brain.
exactly. And I was like, it was my dad. He asked me if I had heard, he's like, you've never heard of blah, blah, blah. And like, I can't even remember. Like, I don't have the recall to even
Want
think
to
of
know
what
what
he
comes
asked
to
me.
mind with what he was probably asking? Was the
Sure.
Battle of the Bulge. I don't know why that came to mind.
We'll pretend that's the one. And
Because
he's
I
like,
don't know what that
haven't
is.
you heard of it? And I was like, no. He's like, you've really never heard of blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no. I was like, see, that's what my public school education did for me. I don't know anything.
I will say though
Yeah.
that I feel like knowing public school down here in Georgia, it's like really awful, honestly, because people, even if you're not religious, even if you don't have the money, you find a way to send your kid to private schools because they're the only one given any money, which is stupid. So honestly though, based on what I know about Georgia public schools, I think we were given a pretty good education. We had a lot of free AP classes and like we had a lot of opportunities, but they're all still given little to no money. They're all still given little to no good resources. I don't know how old these textbooks are. I was shocked when a textbook had Obama in it. I was like, this was written in the last 6 years? What? Who allowed this? So If my math book wasn't missing the cover, I wasn't at my school. I was somewhere else. Like that's just how it was.
And some
Um,
doodles of some like phallic images in there, it's like, hello, yep, that's just a public school textbook for you.
I love to see it. Okay, I've got a quick question. So there was a quote, and I think it was around the drinking scene actually about having a good guy heart or like being a good guy versus a bad guy. And Zach thinks so. Real quick, Zach thinks bad guy because everyone left him, like his family and everyone has left him. And Tyler feels like a bad guy because he presumably feels responsible for his brother's death. But Tyler is like really, really adamant to making sure Zach knows that he's a good guy because he thought he was going to be a villain in the wrestling world because he's the bad guy in real life and he could never be a hero. And that's kind of Tyler's new goal at one point. I don't remember what the first goal Tyler had with Zach was, but it does change at some point to making sure Zach knows he's the hero of his own story and not just what everyone else tells him he is, which I was like, damn, love that. And he is like, no, you have a good guy heart and you are born with that. Like, you can't change that. But I have a question is, can you be born with a bad guy heart? Or is that all just taught to you? Like, can you truly be born bad?
Okay, I'm not saying psychopaths are bad. It's a mental illness, but that's where my mind's going is
You
I
can
wouldn't say you're bad, but there are
born
certain
with
people who are born a certain they're born with a certain mental illness. So that's the only thing I'm thinking of is if you have a mental illness where things that maybe the vast majority of the world would think are not the best idea to do or not moral to do, they might think that that's okay.
I think anyone can be born with a good heart. I think there are people that are born just like less kind than other people. Like some people, being too kind can be a bad thing too. But like everyone has different personality traits, but I think it's pretty much impossible to be born like truly just like doing things maliciously on purpose. A lot of those things are taught like biases or, you know, being unkind to the world on purpose. So,
Or like from things you've experienced, it's
yeah.
like walls you put up to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's because it's just like you're not born with fears, except for you're born with a fear of, I think, heights or something. There's two fears you're born with. I can't remember them for sure, but it's like loud noises or something because babies will scream and like falling or I don't know. It's like two things though, but like you're not born being scared of snakes or spiders or sharks or things like that because you grow to learn those
Yeah,
fears.
you're not taught. You don't know what a shark is until you're taught what a shark is.
Right.
Yeah. So I think
Oh,
that
for
it's a
sure.
good example as being like, is this the only way that like people could do it unwillingly? Even is unwilling the only way to be born with a bad heart as the only option? Because I do think a lot of it is learned behaviors.
For sure. I think it's more learned, but
Mhm.
that's just me. I feel like we covered everything on this film that we could
Yeah.
possibly cover.
Did you know that this was the first film I ever watched in a theater by myself?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I watched it when it came out, shortly after it came out. It was in 2019. I was evacuating, but I got a nice vacation from the worst job ever. So whatever. And I stayed with these
That's
people
so
that I
funny.
met online, which was funny. We're not friends anymore because they're crazy anti-vaxxer people and like spreading misinformation type of people. You can be anti-vax all you want. I don't think it's right, but you can be anti-vax all you want, but like spreading misinformation about masks and spreading misinformation about the vaccine and spreading misinformation about COVID. That's not what I'm here to vibe with. Luckily, I didn't know this until after, a year later. I went out and saw this movie in Kennesaw, Georgia, all by myself, all alone. And the popcorn was $10 for a small one. And I go, never going without my mom again to pay. It was ridiculous. I don't care if the ticket is $10. I can understand that. Okay. I can understand for whatever reason they got to pay whatever. But like a small popcorn was $10. I said I gotta leave, but I had already bought it, so whatever.
That is wild. I'd be like, y'all are robbing me. Okay.
In like LA or New York, like I was in Kennesaw, Georgia. What is there that is causing the popcorn price hike? Do a strike.
Does not have many corn kernels.
Apparently. Have you ever seen a movie in theater yourself?
No, the closest to by myself was the movie you and I saw together called Booksmart, and we were the only two people in the theater. And I just remember that movie theater was so humid.
Really?
It was like wet. Yeah, I remember sitting in there. It was like moist. It was moist air in there, but it was a great movie. Do you want to hit the people with our socials?
I should do. I'm gonna smack you in the face with them. Okay, so we have an Instagram. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. You can follow us on Instagram at youtalkingtome.podcast, where we will start continuing our live streams once a month again. And so keep an eye out for when that'll be. And we have a Twitter at youtalkingtome11, because we're both number one. And you can email us suggestions. Fun fact, this movie was suggested by one of you. Sarah, thank you for suggesting the Peanut Butter Falcon. I know it took us a little while to get here. The themes for each month kind of pushed it back a couple of months, but we get to it. We listen to your suggestions, people, and we will play it as soon as we possibly can and try and find a perfect time for it. So thank you for the suggestion. It was one of the best movies I think we've seen. So email us at talkintomepodcast@gmail.com if you have suggestions for future month themes, for future movies, TV shows, ideas that we put into our podcast. Like, we're looking for anything, people. Like, we want to keep it fun and spicy for you. Okay, so you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, leave us reviews on Apple Podcasts, wherever else also has reviews. I don't know the other podcast platforms very well, but we're on Stitcher, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on Amazon Music, we're on Pandora, Spotify. Hit us up, like, go leave us reviews, comments, stars, whatever it is. I just want them all.
Anchor.
And Anchor. Whoops, you know we're on Anchor because you keep getting that ad every week. Unless you watch us on YouTube, you are ad free for now. So lucky you guys. And so make sure that you just are leaving us positive. We want more people to see this. We're making our way up to we're in season 3 now. So we just want to keep blessing the world with our wacky reviews. So let us know how you feel. With that, I am Rachel.
I'm Hannah.
This was the You Talking to Me podcast. And I'm dressed like a safari person. Bye.
Bye.